Hey, tonight we're not strolling through the grand halls with lords and ladies. We're not admiring swords or jousts or crowns. Instead, we're stepping softly into the quieter corners of a medieval castle, the ones most people never think about, where the real work happened, where things got done. The scullery maid scrubbing pans before sunrise, the spit boy sweating in front of a fire until his eyebrows singe off, the laundress with fingers numb from ice-cold rinse water, the watchman pacing in silence while the rest of the world sleeps. This is their story, not one of glory, not one of fame, but of relentless labor, tired limbs, and quiet strength. 10 lives, 10 days, all under one roof, living side by side, but in completely different worlds. If this kind of grounded real history helps you relax or unwind, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if it genuinely brings you peace. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far these quiet voices travel. So take a breath, let the fire crackle, dim the lights, and let's begin, not with royalty, but with the ones who served beneath them. Good morning, you're awake, not because you slept well. Oh no, you're awake because the stone floor finally sucked the last bit of warmth from your body. That and the cook stepped on you, twice, without apologizing. Welcome to another glorious day as a scullery maid. You are unpaid. You are unwashed. And unless someone needs something cleaned or someone to yell at you, are completely invisible. You sleep next to the hearth because that's the warmest place in the kitchen. And by warm, we mean less freezing than outside. Your bedding, a burlap sack filled with straw that's older than you and smells like wet ash, burnt meat, and someone else's disappointment. Your shift, that's your only piece of clothing, is made of coarse, scratchy wool. It's what you sleep in, work in, and sweat through every single day. Has it been washed this year? Maybe once. Probably not. You rise before the sun, before the roosters, before anyone really. Why? Because everything lighting the fire, fetching the water, scrubbing the pans, prepping for the cook falls on you. Technically, you're not alone in this. But let's be honest, the other girls are better at hiding when work is being handed out. You haven't figured that trick out yet, or maybe you just weren't born slippery enough. This morning, the hearth is dead. No embers, no fire, no heat. That's bad news. A scullery without fire is like a knight without armor, mostly just pathetic. So out you go barefoot across a freezing, jagged courtyard because your shoes disintegrated months ago and were stuffed into a door crack to block wind. You gather kindling with hands too numb to feel splinters. Back inside, you crouch by the hearth and start coaxing flame from damp wood and stubborn thoughts. Eventually it catches. The fire crackles to life. You hold your fingers over it, waiting for the feeling to return. You're just getting started. Next water. The castle doesn't have plumbing. It has you. You haul buckets, heavy sloshing gallons back and forth from the well, balanced on a wooden yoke across your shoulders. Each trip makes your arms burn, your back scream, and your knees shake. You haven't even reached breakfast yet. By the time the rest of the kitchen staff strolls in yawning and scratching, you're on your fourth trip to the well. No one thanks you. No one even looks at you. You are background noise. Furniture with legs. Then boom, the cook arrives. A thunderclap in a bad mood. She's already sweating, already barking orders, and she's wielding a wooden spoon like it's a sword. Why's the stew pot still crusty? She demands. That's your cue. You scrub that pot until your knuckles are raw. No soap, of course. That's for nobles and people who matter. You use ashes, sand, and lye. If you're lucky, sometimes just the ashes. The scullery is more punishment than workspace. One tiny, soot-choked window. No ventilation. Everything smells like boiled meat, old grease, and something else you don't want to identify. Rats scamper across the tables. You chase them off with a ladle like that's normal. Mid-morning, you still haven't eaten. There's a hunk of crusty bread hidden in your apron, dry as stone. You nibble it behind the doorway, trying not to look guilty. You fail. A kitchen maid sees you, reports you. Now you're on chamber pot duty for the rest of the week. You're promoted to onion duty later, which just means chopping until your eyes burn like fire. You cry for 2 hours straight. No one asks if you're okay. They just assume you're weeping from your station in life. By noon, the nobles are ready for their first meal. You carry in dishes, keeping your eyes down. You do not speak. You do not breathe too loudly. You definitely do not make eye contact. Nobles hate being reminded that servants have eyes. You hold a pitcher for a full hour. No one asks you to pour. Your arms go numb. That's just how it is. After the meal, you clean. Again. The same trenches, now slick with gravy. Bones, half-eaten pies, grapes, fish maybe. You scrape it all into a slop bucket. You're not allowed to keep scraps. But sometimes, you sneak one. Just a crust. Just enough to stand up straight again. Afternoon blurs into evening. You haul more water, peel more vegetables, mop floors, get blamed for something the dog did in a room you've never even seen. Doesn't matter. You're always the easy answer. Dinner service comes. It's louder now, hotter. The cook is screaming. A pot gets dropped. Smoke fills the air. You slap out a fire with your apron and keep moving. You're allowed to eat again. Sort of. A shared bowl between 5 girls. Thin stew, a turnip, a root, a chunk of mystery meat, maybe squirrel. Doesn't matter, it's food. Finally, dinner's over. Nobles done. Dishes back. More scrubbing. Bones stuck to the pan like medieval cement. Your hands shake now, not from cold, from pure exhaustion. You're dismissed with a grunt. You crawl back to your spot by the hearth. The fire is down to embers. Your tunic's still damp. Someone's already crying beside you. Quietly. You don't ask who. You lie there eyes open, not asleep, but not awake. You didn't choose this life. No one chooses to be a scullery maid. Your mother worked the dairy till her back gave out. Your aunt caught fever from the river. Now it's your turn. Suffering gets passed down like a family heirloom. No path up. No fairy tale ending. No embroidery lessons by candlelight. You just get older. And slower. And eventually replaced. But until then, you wake up before the sun. Because someone has to start the fire. You don't sleep well. You twitch. You ache. Your dreams are strange. Sometimes you dream of open fields. Sometimes of ships you've never seen. Sometimes of absolutely nothing. Then one morning it changes. Not for the better. You wake to the cook yelling again. But not at you. This time she's yelling for someone to get the spit boy. That's you. Or rather, that's what you are now. Congratulations or condolences. It really depends on how much you enjoy sitting in front of a roaring fire for hours rotating meat until your bones beg for mercy. You're young. Probably around 10, though no one's keeping track. Small enough to fit beneath the great kitchen hearth. Old enough to not cry every time you burn yourself. Maybe you're an orphan. Maybe your parents traded you for a sack of grain. Maybe they're still out there hoping this turns into a better future. They were wrong. Your job is simple. Turn the spit. All day. All evening. Clockwise. Slowly. Not too fast. Not too slow. Just enough noble dignity, whatever that means. Sometimes they tell you to stop. Sometimes they shout because you're not turning it with the right posture. Once a steward said, "You blinked too much." "Looks cheeky," he muttered. "You said nothing. You blinked less. It's hot. Not just warm. Not just toasty. It's the kind of hot that cooks your thoughts. You're basically living inside a bread oven halfway through baking. Your cheeks stay flushed. Your tunic is always damp. The ends of your sleeves are singed from where you leaned too close. The smell. Once you loved it. Roasted duck, sizzling goose, buttery lamb. Now it turns your stomach. It's in your skin, in your hair, in your mouth. You don't get breaks. The meat doesn't care that your arms hurt. The fire doesn't care that you're drenched in sweat. The nobles definitely don't care. They just want the goose turned evenly. On feast days, the spit gets longer. Bigger birds, whole pigs. One time, they put an entire deer up there. You needed help, a partner. He had a lazy eye and a cruel laugh. He used to let go of the crank mid-turn just to watch you panic. He's not around anymore. Rumor says he got reassigned to the kennels. You hope the dogs are treating him fairly. You sit there hour after hour, legs cramping, back twisted. One time your foot went numb and you thought you'd gone lame. The steward threw a turnip at your head and told you to quit being dramatic. You didn't cry. You just turned slower. The kitchen is chaos. Shouting, pots banging, plates clattering, people rushing past with trays of oysters and towers of pies. But you're still. You're the eye of the storm. No one thanks you. No one remembers you. But if the roast is overcooked, if the skin's uneven, oh, they remember real fast. When the meat's finally done, you help remove it from the spit. Carefully, slowly. The fat sizzles. The grease pops. If you flinch, scolded. If you hesitate, slapped. Then it's on to the next roast. The next pot. The next slab of animal. Your hands are blistered. Your fingers are black with soot. You cough so much that someone asked if you had the plague. You don't. You're just slowly turning into smoke. Sometimes someone throws you a bone. Literally. A half-chewed rib with a scrap of meat on it. You crouch in the corner, gnawing like a stray dog, and then it's back to turning. By late afternoon, your lips are cracked. Your face burns from heat. You've inhaled so much smoke, you could probably blow a fire yourself. The nobles are laughing upstairs. Plates clink. Wine spills. You've never seen that room. You're not allowed. That's the clean world. The white bread world. The place with cushions and napkins. You exist so they don't have to. Eventually, the feasting ends. That doesn't mean you're done. It means you now get to carry the scraps back downstairs. You don't eat them. You just carry them. You scrape bones into the slop bucket. Rinse silver goblets. Drag the spit back into the scullery for scrubbing. It's heavy. Your arms scream. You pretend the blister on your palm didn't just burst. It did. Someone yells again. Apparently, the Lord wants a roast for his hounds. You start the whole process over. The dogs will eat better than you tonight. By now, it's deep into the night. Your tunic clings to your skin. Your hair is stiff with grease. Your knees ache. Your hands shake. Not just from exhaustion, from hunger. You finally get your bowl. It's pottage. Basically hot water with some tired barley and a floating vegetable. You drink it fast in the corner. No one talks. Everyone's too tired to remember their people. You clean your tools. Blunt, knives, iron, spit, meat hooks. They must be spotless before the steward's rounds. If he finds a smear of fat, you're scrubbing with your own spit. If not, you're sent to mop the Lord's privy with a broken broom and a prayer. You sit by the dying fire, too sore to lie down, too wired to sleep. A rat scurries past. You don't even flinch. You're too tired to care. You think about your life before this. You were a shepherd's son, maybe. Or your family ran a mill. Maybe they still do. Maybe they forgot about you. Maybe they just couldn't afford another mouth to feed. There's no escape. Spit boys don't rise up. They don't become knights. They don't even become cooks. They either grow up to be another kind of servant, or they don't grow up at all. You settle in by the hearth again, legs crossed. The fire flickers low. Your skin stings where your blisters cracked open. You stare into the coals and imagine what warmth might feel like without pain. You don't know. You've never felt that. Outside, it's snowing. Inside, the fire spits and pops. And in between, you sit forgotten, still turning. Because that's what you do. You know how every castle or town really needs someone to deal with the waste? Yeah, that's you. You're a gong farmer. That's the polite way of saying it. What you really are is the one who hauls away the human filth nobody else wants to think about. If it ends up in a chamber pot, a latrine, or anywhere else, it shouldn't be. You get it. You dig it out. You carry it. You live in it. And somehow, it's a real job. One that actually pays better than being a kitchen maid or a stable boy. Why? Because no one wants to do it. They'd rather starve. Your shift doesn't start at dawn. It starts at night. Not because you're nocturnal, but because no one wants to see you or smell you. You're not allowed in the market during the day. And even when you bathe, which you try to, you still stink. It's in your skin now. People cross the street when they see you. Pretend you're not there. Your tool? A shovel, a rake, a bucket. Sometimes a cart. Your clothes. Layers of wool moss and whatever you can stuff into the seams to try and block the smell. It doesn't work. The stink finds a way. Your job is simple on paper. Go to the cesspits. Dig out everything that's been dumped, or forgotten over the last several months. Get it out before it overflows. You climb into the pit. Yes, into. A ladder if someone remembered. A rope if you're lucky. Most of the time, you just slide. And then the smell hits. It's not just bad. It's violent. It smacks you like a wall of rotted cabbage and old meat dipped in despair. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. Now, you can taste it. You step into sludge. Some places, ankle deep. Some knee deep. Some, you don't test. You start to rake. The top layers are awful. But the lower layers, that's where nightmares live. Gray muck, black crust, weird bubbles, masses that seem to move on their own. You don't ask questions. You just dig. What's in there? Human waste, animal waste, food gone foul, broken chamber pots, straw soaked with fluids you don't identify, bits of old cloth, bones, dead rats. One time you found a whole chicken. You buried it with some dignity. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, you find coins. Nobles in a hurry drop things. You pocket them. You've earned it. When your bucket's full, you haul it up. Dump it into your cart. Then go back down. You do this a dozen times. More if there was a feast. You work under torchlight because no one wants to see you during the day. The cart groans under the weight. The wheels creak like they're judging you. You drag it through the streets. People gag. Someone mutters a prayer. A kid once threw a cabbage at you. You threw something back. You're not proud of it. Outside the town walls, there's a dumping ground, usually near the fields. Because all that filth, it becomes fertilizer. Yep. The same nobles who pretend you don't exist are eating vegetables grown in their own waste. That's what you call medieval recycling. After dumping, you head to the pond. Rinse your tools. Wash your boots. Scrub your hands until your skin peels. It doesn't matter. The smell stays. People know what shift you worked just by sitting next to you. Some don't even let you sit near them. You try not to care. You remind yourself it's honest work, important work, because if you didn't show up, the castle would flood with filth in a week. You're not a hero, but you are the line between society and ankle-deep disaster. You eat alone. Bread that tastes like ash, not because it's burnt, but because everything smells like ash now. You drink ale, not for fun, for survival. The water's not safe, and being sober on this job is its own kind of torture. Winter is the worst, not just cold, but because the waste freezes. You have to break through it with a shovel chip away at the icy crust just to get to the warm horror underneath. Summer. Not better. Summer bakes everything. The stink goes airborne. Flies swarm. Wasps show up. Why, no one knows. You've tried everything to mask the smell. Vinegar, herbs, mint. All it does is make you smell like floral filth. People joke behind your back, smells like a gong farmer in here. It's not funny. Some folks think you're stupid, but you know how to balance a ladder with 1 foot while hauling 40 pounds of sewage. You know which side of the pit is safer after rain. You know not to use torch oil that ignites near methane pockets. That's not stupidity, that's survival. And here's the wild part. You make more than most castle servants. Not much, but more. You don't live well, just better. A one-room hut, far from town. Because even your neighbors would rather pretend you don't exist. But hey, you get paid. Because no one else wants to do this. Ever. That's your leverage. That's your curse. You finish your shift and roll the empty cart back to the yard. Lean your shovel against the wall. Sit on a log, not because it's clean, just because it's there. You sleep outside sometimes. Your wife insists, if you have one. Your kids say you smell like boiled cabbage and sin. They're not wrong. You close your eyes, but it doesn't leave. The scent clings. It's in your dreams now. Your hands don't look like hands anymore. The nails are black. The skin cracked. No matter how much you scrub, the calluses stay. The stink stays. You used to smell flowers, grass, bread. Not anymore. Your nose is broken. Not physically, just permanently rewired. Even if a cart of fresh apples passed you, you'd think they were rotten. Sometimes the guards joke, don't fall in. Like it's the first time you've heard that. You smile politely. Pretend to laugh. One time, one of them shoved you near the edge. Just for laughs. You didn't smile that time. You have dreams. Rarely. Maybe being a baker. Maybe a scribe. But then you wake up, and your hands still smell like last night. So you rinse your face, adjust your tunic, grab your bucket, and walk back to the pit. Because even in dreams, someone still has to carry the waste. You wear shoes. That might not sound like much, but in this castle, that makes you practically elite. Stiff leather, curled at the toes, and they squeak when you walk. Which is unfortunate, because silence is technically part of your job. You're the apprentice to the chamberlain, which means you're not scrubbing pots or hauling dung. You're not sleeping in straw. You're wearing clean linen, and you're walking the fine, exhausting line between servant and something slightly more important. You carry ledgers. You memorize inventory lists. You pretend to understand words like protocol and accountability. But don't get it twisted, you're still a servant. Just one that sees more rooms and hears more secrets than most. Your day starts before the lords rise. You wake in the servants' hall, but near the good hearth, the one not used for boiling rat stew or heating chamber pots. You splash cold water on your face, rake your fingers through your hair, and brush off your tunic with your own sleeve. Presentation matters. First job candles. You walk the corridors, replacing stubby ends of burnt-out tapers with new ones. Not beeswax. Oh no. That's reserved for the great hall and the chapel. You carry the cheap stuff. Tallow. Smells like sheep and sorrow. You move quickly, but quietly, noting everything along the way. If a salt cellar is low, you write it down. If the wine stock looks 2 cups short, you make a note. If the chamber pot in the guest room is full, you don't empty it. You find someone else who will. That's called delegating downward, a proud tradition. The chamberlain's already awake, of course. You're not sure he ever sleeps. He's a thin man with a sharp nose, sharper robes, and eyes that seem to catch every mistake before you've made it. He smells faintly of ink and lavender. He speaks in lists: 2 bolts of wool, 3 casks of lamp oil, 1 visiting friar who refuses salted meats. You nod, write everything down, and silently pray not to spill ink again. Last time, he made you recopy an entire month of inventory by candlelight, while the steward chewed pickled herring in your ear. Your job is part clerk, part courier, and full-time scapegoat. If a towel goes missing, your fault. If the firewood is damp, your fault. If the Lord's prized hunting dog relieves itself in the guest stairwell, you guessed it, still your fault. Mid-morning means inspections. You follow the chamberlain through rooms like a shadow in squeaky shoes. He taps on walls, lifts bed covers, sniffs the rushes on the floor. You scribble his observations like a frantic, hunched ghost. You once yawned during this round. Just once. He had you sort dried peas by size and color for the rest of the day. You don't yawn anymore. You don't envy anyone here, except maybe the cook's dog. At least it gets to bark when it's upset. Lunch isn't a break. It's a scheduling nightmare. Who eats what when, and next to whom? Because heaven forbid Lady Cresset sit too close to Lord Alric, especially after the Lent wine incident. You carry seating charts. You remember feuds, forbidden romances, and formal titles. You remind people gently that Lady Beatrice prefers pigeon, not duck, even though they taste exactly the same. After the meal, it's account time. You sit across from the chamberlain in his solar. You read out each item from the day's logs: wool, barley, salt, ink, horseshoes, soap, mead. Barley again. Occasionally, he quizzes you. How many loaves can you make from a stone of flour? You pause. He raises one eyebrow. You want to crawl under the table. Then come the guests, nobles from other keeps, a wandering knight, some distant cousin no one remembers, but somehow always finds a reason to visit. They bring trunks, egos, and dietary restrictions that sound suspiciously made up. You greet them. You take careful note of which linens they're given. Not because they'll thank you, because someone will blame you if something goes missing. You also handle keys. Not all of them, but you fetch them. The wine cellar, the armory, the strange upstairs wardrobe that no one's sure actually opens anything. You carry them on a cord, tied tightly to your belt. You touch them throughout the day without realizing. Losing them would be a scandal. Possibly a beating. Possibly exile. Possibly lifelong latrine duty. By afternoon, you've moved on to logistics. A shipment of dried herring is late. The kitchen is out of vinegar. The stables need hay. The steward has opinions. You listen, nod, and draft a diplomatic response in the chamberlain's voice. Sometimes you write love letters. No, really. One noble lady insists on communicating with her crush exclusively through letters. You take dictation while she lounges behind a curtain, feeding strawberries to a lapdog. You edit out the worst parts and deliver it with a wax seal. The knight who receives them blushes so hard you can see it through his armor. Evening comes. Candles again. You relight. You trim. You snuff. The halls go dim and golden. The nobles settle. The servants exhale. You're somewhere in between, not part of either world, required by both. You pass the guest rooms one last time. Straighten the rushes. Fluff the curtains. Check that no one has died, spilled wine, or eloped without notice. By now your feet throb. Your head pounds. Your fingers are sticky with ink and wax. You haven't eaten since morning, but you won't eat until the chamberlain is done with supper. Sometimes he forgets. You sit outside his chamber head in hand, listening to him tell long, meandering stories to a page boy who'd rather be a knight than a note-taker. Eventually, the door creaks open. He flicks 2 fingers. You're dismissed. No thanks. No good night. Just dismissal. You bow, murmur something polite, and head back to the servants' hall. Your bunk is narrow. Your blanket's gone. Again. You lie down still half-dressed, staring up at the wooden beams. And you wonder, is this what power smells like? Ink, tallow, dust, and dried lavender. You used to think that being near the nobles meant hearing secrets, that you'd understand how power really works. And you do now. It's just a mess of rules, fear, and paperwork. You're learning discipline, the chamberlain says. But what you're really learning is how to be invisible, how to carry a castle's weight without ever being seen. You start your day in a barn that never fully sleeps. The horses wake before the sun, their breath steaming in the cold air, tails swishing, hooves shifting over damp straw. You're the stable boy, which means you're the one who wakes before even they do. You shovel, you haul, you brush, you get kicked often, but mostly you just apologize to creatures that eat better than you do. You sleep in the hayloft above the main stall, if you can call it sleep. The horses never stop moving. You hear them all night, the clink of tack, the stomp of hooves, the soft, wet thump of something unpleasant landing a little too close to your pillow. You're already stiff when you sit up. Your hands cracked from the cold, your joints aching like an old man's. You're not even 17. You pull on your boots, still wet from yesterday, and climb down the ladder. The cold hits hard, the kind that slices right through your tunic and settles in your spine. No one else is around yet. You grab the shovel and start mucking out the stalls. One by one. Shovel, pitch, sweep. Move to the next. Shovel, pitch, sweep again. It isn't glamorous. It isn't even tolerable. But it has to be done before the master of horse arrives. Or you'll get a cracked lip to go with the blisters. You work fast, but not too fast. The horses don't like sudden movements. And a spooked horse is worse than an angry noble. They rear, they bite, they trample. You've got the bruises and a few scars to prove it. Once you got kicked square in the ribs by a gelding named Thorn, you coughed blood for a week. The master just said, next time don't walk behind him, as if that solves anything. Still, you love them. The horses, they don't lie. They don't scheme. They don't care about your name or your rank. They only care if you're calm, if your hands are steady, if your voice is kind. After mucking out, you haul down the feed sacks. They're heavy oats hay, sometimes barley, if it's a good month. You lower the bales carefully, using rope, so you don't twist your back again like last winter. The master didn't believe you were hurt. He threw a bridle at your head and told you to walk it off. You didn't argue. You never do. Feeding the horses is its own dance. Some are greedy. Some are timid. Some will bite your hand clean off if you move wrong. You know them all. You whisper nonsense to calm them. They know your voice. They trust it more than any noble's command. Mid-morning comes and it's grooming time. You curry their coats, clean their hooves, untangle manes. You find burrs. You wipe their noses. You clean up after the noble's dogs, to those twitchy, overbred hunting hounds that yap like they're royalty themselves. No one says thank you. No one ever does. When the Lord decides to ride, and it's always last minute the stable becomes a storm. You saddle his favorite horse, a jittery gelding, who hates being touched. You check the girth strap 3 times, wipe the bit clean, polish the stirrups until they gleam, not because he'll notice, but because if he doesn't like something, the master of horse will, and you'll be the one yelled at, or worse. You step back as the lord mounts. If the horse twitches, your fault. If he slips in mud, still your fault. If he falls off and bruises his ego, definitely your fault. You'll hear about it for days. While he's out riding, you refill the troughs, sweep the stable yard, stack hay, scrub water buckets with a brush that lost all its bristles 2 winters ago. No one replaces it. No one notices but you. By mid-afternoon, you sit on a stool and sip warm ale from a dented cup. Not for rest, just to stop shaking. Your whole body aches. Your jaw is tight from clenching it all morning. Your legs burn. In winter, it's worse. Your fingers go stiff even in gloves. You break ice with a hammer just to get the horse's water. Sometimes, you wonder if anyone inside the castle even knows the stable doesn't have insulation. In summer, it's the opposite. You're a walking blister. The air stinks of sweat and manure and wet hay. You sweat through everything tunic shirt patience. Evening brings flies. Clouds of them. They settle in the corners like curses. You swap them away while you rake the last stall for the 3rd time. One of the mares is acting strange, restless, pacing. You approach carefully. You know what this means. Colic. If she rolls too much, it could twist her gut. It could kill her. You grab a halter, whisper calm words, and lead her out. She thrashes, nearly catches your leg. You hang on. You keep her moving, circling, talking low. Your arms tremble. Your tunic rips. The master of horse finally shows up, curses under his breath, and takes over. You step back, exhausted but relieved. She's standing. That's something. You return to your rounds. 2 new guests arrived earlier. Their horses are nervous from the road. You soothe them. One nips your sleeve. One stomps, missing your foot by inches. You check hooves again. Refill buckets. You patch a broken leather strap with twine and a bone needle. It's not pretty, but it'll hold. The sun slips behind the castle wall. Wind picks up. You close the big stable doors and hang the lanterns. Final check. You walk stall to stall. Rub noses. Scratch behind ears. Whisper goodnight. Smoke gets a carrot. Gorse gets 2. He bit a steward last week. You like him more for it. You climb the ladder to the loft. You strip off your boots. Stretch your toes. Your feet are raw. Your tunic is crusted with sweat and hay. You eat a second dinner. Some crusty cheese you traded for, and a hunk of onion bread too stale for the kitchen to keep. You chew slowly, legs folded beneath you. The castle glows below, torchlight flickering. Laughter from the great hall. You hear music, some minstrel plucking a lute string, singing about brave knights and perfect lords. You don't mind. You're not in the story. Below, the horses settle. One whinnies, one snorts. You lie back in the straw. Your bed smells like mildew and saddle oil, but it's yours. You close your eyes. You're not a knight, not even a squire, but you know animals. You know their sounds, their fears. You matter. Quietly. And tomorrow, before the sun even thinks about rising, you'll do it all again. Because you're the stable boy, and the horses need you. You wake up with a paw in your mouth, again. It's Snipe, one of the turnspit dogs. Short legs, long back, fur like oily rope. He's snoring across your straw mattress like he owns the place. You don't push him off. He's warm, and honestly, he smells better than most of your coworkers. You're the turnspit dog keeper, which means you're not turning the meat yourself. Not exactly. You're the one making sure someone else does it. Someone with 4 legs and absolutely no concept of why they have to run in circles to roast a bird. Welcome to the world of medieval canine-powered cuisine. You wake before the kitchen fire's even lit. Stretch your back until it pops. Immediately, step in something wet. Might be water. Probably isn't. The dogs are already restless. They know what's coming. You lead Snipe by the collar. He bites you lightly on the wrist. Fair. He's been on spit duty 3 days in a row. You rub his ears, mutter an apology, and get him into the wheel. It looks like a hamster wheel. If the hamster weighed 30 pounds and had serious trauma, you latch the gate. Snipe starts walking. The spit begins to turn. A roast boar slowly starts to spin, and now the game begins. You sit beside the wheel, watching and waiting. The trick is keeping the dogs moving, not too fast, not too slow. If they stop, the roast slips. If they slow, it cooks unevenly. And then the cook yells, not just yelling, throwing, sharp things, hot things, insults that stick like grease. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. Not the dogs, not the meats. Yours. You've got 4 dogs total. You rotate them. 2 on 2 off. But rest is a generous word. Even the ones not running are twitching, whining, chewing on each other's ears. You rub their legs. Feed them when you can. Whisper like they're war horses about to charge. You clean the wheels. Not because anyone tells you to, but because last month a squeaky axle during a noble's banquet earned you a ladle to the forehead. The welt lasted a week. The Lord himself passes through sometimes, never speaks to you, just nods vaguely in the direction of the spit and says something like, earthy flavor. Yeah, that's the sweat. And probably some dog hair. You feed the dogs whatever you can sneak. They're supposed to get dried peas, but that doesn't power legs like this. So you slip them goose-fat crusts soaked in drippings and bones with just enough meat to say thank you. They love you for it, until they don't, until one bites your thumb. That happened last week. Burns are constant. Your arms are covered in them blisters and shiny patches where the skin never quite healed right. The kitchen is a furnace, even in winter. In summer, it's like being swallowed by a volcano that smells like roast chicken. The fire never goes out. Even when everyone sleeps, the embers still glow. And you sleep beside it, close enough to be ready, far enough to be forgotten. You cough black. Your eyes are always red. At this point, no one knows if it's from smoke or tears. Probably both. You used to like dogs. You thought they were cheerful, loyal. Now you know better. These are working dogs. They're not here for play. They're here to move the spit day after day. They don't want love. They want food. They want you to shut up and stop messing with their stride. You once walked into the wheel room and found 3 of them gnawing your left shoe. No one taught you how to train them. You learned through pain and blood and a whole lot of limping. You keep a stick nearby. You hate using it, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes they dig in their paws and stare at you like they know they're part of something ridiculous, but can't figure out what. You've named them all. Snipe's the stubborn one. Button's nervous. Moore's is old and slow. Guts is the mean one. He only likes you when you feed him bacon grease. Otherwise, he growls like he wants to remember what your bones feel like. Once, a noble child wandered in, pointed at the wheel, and said, "Look, a spinning puppy." You smiled. Then her tutor dragged her away, glaring at you like you'd exposed her to something unholy. You didn't say anything. You never do. At some point, your posture changed. You hunch now. From ducking under rafters, from crouching by the fire, from carrying iron spits hot enough to sizzle skin. You're 17, you look 30. You used to dream of being a falconer, walking with birds on your wrist, gazing up at the sky. Now the only thing that turns is the wheel, and the dogs, and your stomach when the meat's undercooked and the cook blames you. Sometimes, when it's quiet late at night, you sit just outside the kitchen door. One of the dogs, usually Moore's, curls beside you. She's old, doesn't want much, just warmth, just breath. You rest your head on her side and listen to her heartbeat. It's the only thing in the castle that doesn't want anything from you. Then the bell rings. Another roast, another dog, another lap around the circle. You scrub your arms raw with sand. You sleep in straw. You dream of spinning. And you wake to the same rhythm pause on wood spit, creaking fire crackling. Sometimes the nobles say things like, "There's something charming about rustic kitchens." They mean the herbs, the roast swan, the cute dog they saw once. They don't know you exist. They don't know the dogs exist. They think it's a tale for a bard. You once heard a minstrel say, "Turnspit dogs enjoy the exercise." You nearly choked on your own laugh. You've learned patience. You've learned to keep your head down. You've learned not to cry when the burns get bad or when guts snaps at your ankle for no reason. You've learned to keep going because the wheel never stops. The fire never goes out, and no one else is going to do it. You have a small cloth pouch hidden behind the wheel room. Inside, a bit of cheese, a flower-shaped button, and a dog-tooth guts. Lost it on a particularly rough day. You kept it, a reminder that even the worst ones break. Sometimes, when the dog nuzzles your hand after a long shift, you feel seen. Not by the cook, not by the nobles, but by something real. And in this place, even that small kindness, a warm dog, a steady breath, a job done without blood, is worth more than most coins. You fall asleep to the sound of paws turning wood, and you wake to it too, as if the night itself is cooking. Because in this castle, you keep the meat spinning. You rise in silence, not because people around you are still asleep. Most of them have already vanished into kitchens, stables, and corridors. The scullery maid is curled by the hearth. The stable boy disappeared into straw before the stars faded. The cook's snores rumble faintly from a back room. But you move now in the dead hours. You are the night watchwoman, not a guard, not exactly. You don't wear armor or carry a sword, but you walk the halls while others sleep, a lantern in one hand and a ring of keys in the other. If a fire starts, if someone cries out, if something moves that shouldn't, you're the one who deals with it. Your shoes are soft patched leather tied with cloth scraps to keep the sound down. Your dress is plain, wool heavy, and layered because castle stone in the middle of the night bites through to your bones. The cold clings like something alive. The tallow candle in your lantern flickers to life. You click the latch shut. The shadows stretch out ahead of you, long and uneasy. You start in the nursery. Two noble children lie curled under quilts, embroidered with lions and ivy. You don't know their names, but you know which one gets night fevers, which one cries after bad dreams. You straighten a blanket and slip away before the room remembers you were ever there. Next, the tapestry hall, painted battles, and noble bloodline sagas hang from the walls. Their stitched eyes gleam in the low light. They've seen everything. They remember more than you do. Something creaks behind you. Wood shifting, maybe a mouse. You don't turn around. The library comes next. Locked, of course. You check it anyway. Last time someone left it open, a rat chewed through a priceless manuscript. You nearly lost your post over it. The chapel is quiet, save for a single candle left burning at the altar. You snuff it, not because you're disrespectful, but because you remember last winter when a forgotten flame nearly caught the hangings on fire. Your hand brushes the iron candlestick, still warm. You move on. You climb a narrow spiral stair. Your lantern sways slightly. The flame trembles, but doesn't go out. Your legs ache. This is your third full round of the night. No one sees that part. No one sees you. The castle makes noise even while it sleeps. Timbers shift. Water drips. Mice scurry in the walls. You know which sounds are harmless. You also know which ones aren't. In the east wing, you find a window open. It shouldn't be. Windows are latched after supper. No one has any reason to be in this corridor after dark. You set your lantern on the floor, close the window, and check the frame. Nothing broken. No footprints. No draft. You don't report it. The steward doesn't believe in ghosts, but you do. You make a quiet mark with chalk near the sill, just to remember. Next is the laundry room. The linens were hung from the rafters earlier. Now, in the freezing air, they're stiff. You tug down a cloak left too close to a torch. The hem is singed. You sigh. You'll fix it before anyone notices. You've learned how to mend in the dark, how to patch without a thimble, how to do other people's jobs quietly, because it's easier than getting blamed. The kitchen corridor is next. A pot sits on the hearth, still warm. You lift the lid onion broth, thin and sour. You dip a crust of bread into it, just enough to take the edge off. You don't eat with the other servants. Your hours don't line up. No one saves you a plate, but you know which shelf hides a wedge of dried cheese. The cook pretends not to notice. Maybe she pities you. Maybe she used to walk these same halls. You check the stair leading to the Lord Solar. You don't go up. You're not allowed. That world, the world with feather beds and warm slippers and polished silver, isn't yours. You just keep it safe. You check on the servants' dormitory. A baby cries softly behind one door. You knock gently. The door opens. A bleary-eyed mother takes the warm flask you hand her. No words, just a nod. You walk on. Sometimes when the castle is this quiet, it doesn't feel dead. It feels alive. It breathes through the stones and groans in the beams. It hums with the memory of 1,000 footsteps. You don't feel small in those moments. You feel connected. Just before dawn, you take your last round. The lantern is low. You tilt it slightly to coax out the last of the candle. The storage corridor is always coldest, always darkest. You pass the grain bins, the wine jugs, the sealed crates of wool and tallow. You check the armory door. It's ajar. Your pulse jumps. You pull it open slowly. Your eyes scan the room racks of spears, swords, shields, all still there. You listen. Nothing. Just your own breath. You close the door. Gently slide the bolt and mark it with chalk. Someone was careless. Or something else. You don't speak of it. Not yet. You return to the hearth in the back hall. You sit for the first time in hours. Not on a chair on the stone. The warmth is faint, but real. You pull the cloak you carried earlier from your bundle. The one with the singed hem. You thread a needle. Small, practiced stitches. Not perfect, but good enough to avoid questions. You finish just as the bells toll. The first of the day. The castle groans to life. Doors creak. Feet shuffle. Voices return. You fold the cloak and return it to its peg. No one will know it was ever damaged. You climb to your cot above the linen stores. More of a shelf than a bed. You tuck your legs in, curl tight, and close your eyes. You sleep while the world wakes, because someone always has to walk the halls. Someone has to make sure the fire didn't spread, that the armory wasn't raided, that the children stayed warm, and the tapestries didn't catch and the window in the east wing didn't blow open on its own. Sometimes you think about the old stories, the ones your mother told you, about spirits in stone, about women who walked at night and listened to the castle breathe. You used to think they were fairy tales. Now you're not so sure. You keep a pouch of salt in your apron. For protection, the cook once told you, just in case. There's a patch of stone near the old chapel that's always cold, always, no matter the season. You step over it every time. Some things aren't meant to be understood. Sometimes you find footprints that don't match any shoe you know. Sometimes you hear laughter in a room that should be empty. You don't ask questions. You mend, you watch, you carry the keys and keep your candle burning. Because the night doesn't protect itself. And the quietest part of the castle is the one that matters most. You drift to sleep with your fingers sore and your dress still damp at the hem. Tomorrow, or rather tonight, you'll do it all again. Because you're the night watch woman, and someone has to listen while the castle dreams.